own home in the community. So we cover the whole of the county across Northamptonshire. So it's predominantly seeing patients that have been discharged from hospital, and so trying to get them out of hospital earlier and support them to sort of rehab in their own home, and also seeing patients that have been referred by maybe their doctor or by the ambulance service, or sometimes self-referrals if they're unwell, to try and stop them going into hospital. So they're often quite acutely unwell, and it's trying to manage that sort of within their own homes. Yeah, so it's quite different to sort of maybe the general perception of community physiotherapy. So we have to work quite closely with nursing colleagues and occupational therapists, and really think about sort of the whole picture of the person. So yeah, it's a role that sort of you need a lot of different skills, a lot of different knowledge, because you're often you're on your own with the person in their own home, and maybe you don't know too much about them, and sometimes they can be quite unwell, so it can be quite a challenging role. But you can also make quite a difference in quite a short space of time. You can put a lot in place in a day. So we're a very responsive service, so we can work really quickly. So if you think that they need to start some antibiotics, if you think they need a nurse, if you think they're going to need bits of equipment to keep them safe, we can get all of that sorted sort of within that day and make a real difference to that person, and probably stop them having to go into hospital, and possibly getting more unwell by being there. I mean, there is that side of it as well, of course. We do see the patients that have been discharged from hospital and just need that bit of support to get them sort of back up and moving again. So sometimes it is people who've had surgeries, who've had falls and breaks, and it is about sort of giving exercise and advice. Also respiratory treatment as well. We see a lot of people who have breathing problems or got chest infections, so we can give physiotherapy input for that as well. So quite a lot of variety in this role. So generally I would be sort of looking at doing a really good assessment and finding out sort of what all their problems are. I would be looking at their home itself. Are there any changes that we can make to their home environment to make things safer for them or easier for them? I'd be looking at how they're managing to get around in their home, what they're like with sort of moving, with their walking, looking at maybe providing mobility aids, looking at their balance, looking at giving them maybe some exercises to do to work on their balance, to work on their strength, to work on endurance, being able to do a little bit more. We might be looking at things like, can we start getting them out and about again? Can we get them to the shops and to the places they want to get going to? Might be looking at sort of giving breathing exercises as well, or anything we can do to help them with their breathing, to help them get over a chest infection any sooner perhaps. And also looking at any equipment that we can provide to make things easier. Is it something simple like popping a cushion on a chair that's going to make it so much easier for them to get up and get about? Looking at sort of stairs and things like that. Can we put an extra rail on there? Is that going to make a difference for them? And also sort of thinking about, do I need to get in touch with other services? Do I need to get them some care in to help them at home? Even looking at sort of the voluntary sector sometime, and do they just need a little bit of a hand with some housework and some shopping? Is that the main problem for them? Physiotherapy, we're predominantly looking at sort of physical activity, so across the whole body. So looking really, maybe starting a bit more of sort of what the problems are, and how we can work on that. So looking at sort of strengthening, balance training, sort of vestibular rehab, looking at people's sensation, their coordination, and things that we can improve with that. So we're probably more looking at what you can change within the person itself. Whereas occupational therapy is more looking at what we can sort of add to the person perhaps to support them, so in terms of things like equipment, and also sort of occupational therapists tend to look more at activities of daily living, so they'd look at more not just what's the strength like in this person's legs, but what do they need to do with those legs? Is it what's important to them? Is it getting up and having a shower in the morning? Can we support them to do that? Is it getting up and making themselves a cup of tea? Can we support them to do that? So there's a lot of overlap with the two professions, but we do have our different areas of speciality, but we work really closely together. They are, yes, yeah. So the sort of educational background is quite different, and we definitely have our different areas that we're a specialist in. So, a physiotherapist doesn't know everything an occupational therapist knows, and vice versa. So, yeah, there's a lot of overlap, and we work well together, but always wanted to work in healthcare, to be honest. My family have always worked in healthcare, so I think that's maybe why. But my sister is a nurse, so I think she put me off being a nurse with some of her stories. And I did some work experience when I was at school, physiotherapy, and it was just something I found really, really interesting. Particularly at the time it was working with sort of stroke patients, and I really loved that ability to sort of make a difference, to help someone get walking again, and to feel like you were really making a big impact and, you know, changing someone's life. So I studied for 3 years at university, so got my undergraduate degree in physiotherapy, and then I started out, I got some experience working as a rehabilitation assistant to start with, so I did that for about a year after I qualified, and then I got a band 5 physiotherapy position, and then I've progressed from there up to a band 7 position. I think things have changed quite a bit recently. I think maybe going back sort of 10 years or so, sort of band 7 physiotherapist, that was about where you got to, and then you became a manager if that was what you wanted to do, and then that was it, and then you lost that sort of patient side of things, and you suddenly stopped wearing a uniform and you weren't really a physio anymore. But I think that has changed a lot. There's a lot more sort of specialist roles, where physiotherapists can sort of really specialise in certain areas, but also in terms of management opportunities, that's really widened up. It used to be predominantly sort of nursing or doctors that took on those roles in healthcare, but that's really opened up to allied health professionals now, which is great. A lot more sort of courses, like postgraduate courses for physiotherapists. There's a lot more options these days to progress if that's what you want to do. Sort of the sky's the limit sort of thing these days. I think speaking to the people who worked in the trust, really. So I spent a bit of time just going out with the intermediate care team before I actually went for my interview to decide if this was right for me. And I think it was the passion of the staff, and just seeing the way that they really did care for their patients. And I think you feel that working here. There really is a sense of we care about what we do. We're proud of what we do, and we're proud to work here. It's a really nice atmosphere to work in. It's fast-paced and it's pressured, but I feel we're all working sort of more towards patient care. I think that's really what it's all centred around. And I think particularly this trust, compared to some others I worked in previously, the training and the development opportunities are really great. You get a lot of support here. If you want to progress, if you want to learn and develop, it's there, it's offered to you, and you will be supported to do that. So I relocated, so I was in London, that's where I studied and that's where I worked, and I moved about a year ago. And when I came to Northamptonshire, I didn't really know the area at all, so I worked as a locum physiotherapist for a little while. I worked at the Northampton General Hospital, just trying to decide sort of where I wanted to work permanently, I suppose. I think that there's a lot of roles in physiotherapy at the moment, so yeah, there's quite a lot of opportunities. It's quite a change working in Northamptonshire, so there's a huge area to cover, so it's quite a lot to get your head around. I'm still very much reliant on my sat-nav to get me everywhere. Yes, it is definitely a bit slower, which is nice. Yeah, I like it. And the difference I've found is I've worked in quite a lot of the big hospitals in London, and obviously, there's some great hospitals there, and there's some, work with some great people like specialists in their field and things like that. But there's a real difference here, because this is often people's, it's their home, it's where they grew up. The hospitals, the community service here, this is where their family get treated, this is where they get treated as well. So it's not just this is the place I work, but it's also, I'm a part of this as well. I'm a part of this service, this is my community, this is my area. So I think that makes people treat things a little bit differently, and maybe feel a little bit more invested in it as well. I particularly liked when I started, I had quite a lengthy induction process where I got to shadow lots of different members of the intermediate care team, so nurses of all different levels, different therapists, but it was particularly going out with the rehabilitation assistants that I really enjoyed. So they were doing a lot of the personal care visits, so going and helping people sort of get more independent with their washing and dressing in the morning, and getting more independent with making their breakfast and things like that. and I just think I felt like I was making a real difference when I did those things, and you felt really valued and like you were doing a really sort of useful job and really, really helping people. I enjoyed my time doing that. I would say that there will be a role for you within healthcare. There is so much variety, so many different things that you could do. I would definitely consider it. And if you want a job that you really feel like you've made a difference at the end of the day, it might be something really small. It might be that you just were there having a conversation with someone for 5 minutes, but that made a real impact on their day. I just think it's such a rewarding place to work, such a rewarding profession. I don't know that you get that in other areas.